In this video, we're going to look at using Google to create a histogram, a frequency polygon, and an ogive from our drive-through service times frequency distribution in example 3. Here's our frequency distribution. Let's see how to create a histogram from this table. The first thing I'll do is select my data. We'll click on the Insert menu and drop down to Chart. That brings up our chart menu. Here we have chart menu, and in the chart that we've got our labels here. Everything looks pretty good. Let's change our title. There's our histogram. A few clicks and we've got our histogram. Now, to create our frequency polygon, we're going to copy this table. We'll plop it down here. We're going to insert a row so that it starts at 0, and then put in that it ends in 0 as well. And then for our frequency polygon, we use the class midpoints to label, so let's put those in. To find the class midpoint, we take 75 plus 124 and divide by 2. I need to make sure that 75 and 124 get calculated first, and then we divide by 2. We get 99.5. To get the next midpoint, we could do something fancy like adding the width, because that's how we can get the next midpoints pretty quickly. And then in the last one, subtract 50 to get the last midpoint. I know we already found these midpoints by hand when we were creating the graphs by hand, but we can use the technology pretty efficiently to get us the table that we need to create the graph that we want. So now we'll select the same set of data with the zeros on the beginning and the end, Insert and Chart. It's going to give us another bar chart. Oh, it didn't! I am pleasantly surprised. It gave us a line chart this time. That's great. So it gives us a line chart. Here we have frequency versus time. I'm going to shrink it just a little bit so I can put it on a single screen. There we go. Okay. We can change it. And for our horizontal axis, we don't have much to change. I know the labels aren't quite there. And it seems like Google wants everything to be nice and neat and not overly complicated. So it's not giving us the 0.5s that happen. Okay, technology sometimes does what the programmers want it to do instead of what we want it to do. That's okay. It might be a little more frustrating to try to change these axis labels to be the midpoints. So we're just going to let it be for now. And there we have our drive-through service times frequency polygon. To create an ogive, I'm going to come back up and grab our original frequency distribution and put it in a clean space. Insert a 0 because we need the ogive to be anchored. And this time we're going to use borders. So 74.5 for the boundary to we'll use our boundary values for the labels. And just like before, select your data, insert chart. Oh, except I didn't do the cumulative. Okay. So to do the cumulative frequency, I'll keep the 0 and I'll keep the 11, but these need to be cumulative, means I need to be adding to them. So we'll take the 11 and add to it all the way up here to the next value in our frequency table, 24. And we can actively see this ogive be created, which is pretty cool. Don't do the autofill because that's not right. We're going to take this handle and drag it down. It should give us to 50. Delete that last one. That was an accident. And there's our cumulative frequency distribution. So let's change this to cumulative frequency. And it doesn't change the title over here on our chart. So we'll change that part and change the title. And again, Google's doing the same thing as it did before in our frequency polygon. The labels are by 50s, not starting with our boundary values, but that's okay. We can still pretty fairly well read our ogive here. So if you watched both the Excel and the Google videos, you'll see that there are advantages and disadvantages to both. And this tends to be the case. The programmers of each are doing slightly different things. Excel's been around a little bit longer than Google Sheets has. Both of them are still pretty powerful and very good at visualizing data, which make them so nice to be able to use when we have all this data that we need to analyze. And there you have it. Practice around with this. Work with the programs that you're using to learn more about it. If it's not doing something that you're expecting it to do, flip through the format menus. Oftentimes I have to do that to find the thing that I need to get it to do what I need it to do. Keep in mind in both of them have an undo button. So if we mess it up, we can always undo what we just did and get right back where we started. Don't be afraid to explore. It's important in order to learn a new technology to explore and expand your knowledge in it. Practice with it. If you want to use this for some homework assignments, you absolutely could, but keep practicing. That's the goal.